The minimum required distance between a circuit breaker and a drinking fountain is 6 feet. This requirement is in place to prevent electrical hazards associated with water and electricity being in close proximity. Water is a conductor of electricity, and if water comes into contact with electrical components, it can create a dangerous shock hazard. Maintaining a minimum distance of 6 feet helps to mitigate this risk by creating a physical separation between the water source, which is the drinking fountain, and the electrical equipment, which is the circuit breaker. Circuit breakers are designed to protect electrical circuits from overloads and short circuits. They are a critical safety component in any electrical system. However, if a circuit breaker is located too close to a water source, there is an increased risk of the circuit breaker becoming wet, which can cause it to malfunction or even create an electrical shock hazard. The 6-foot distance requirement is based on industry best practices and electrical codes such as the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The NEC provides guidelines for the safe installation and maintenance of electrical systems, and it is widely adopted throughout the United States. While the specific wording may vary depending on the local codes and regulations, the general principle of maintaining a safe distance between electrical equipment and water sources is universally recognized. Firstly, always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that your electrical installations comply with all applicable codes and regulations. The electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to have it done by someone who is properly trained and experienced. Secondly, regularly inspect your electrical equipment to make sure that it is in good condition and that there are no signs of damage or wear. Look for things like frayed wires, cracked insulation, and loose connections. If you see anything that looks suspicious, have it checked out by an electrician. Thirdly, never attempt to work on electrical equipment yourself unless you are properly trained and qualified to do so. Electrical work can be extremely dangerous, and it is not worth the risk of injuring yourself or someone else. It's also important to note that the 6-foot distance requirement is a minimum requirement, and in some cases, it may be necessary to maintain a greater distance depending on the specific circumstances. For example, if the drinking fountain is located in an area where there is a lot of splashing or spraying water, it may be necessary to increase the distance to prevent water from coming into contact with the circuit breaker. Additionally, the type of circuit breaker and the voltage of the electrical system can also affect the required distance. Higher voltage systems may require a greater distance to ensure adequate safety. It is always best to err on the side of caution when it comes to electrical safety. If you are unsure about the required distance between a circuit breaker and a drinking fountain, consult with a qualified electrician to get their professional opinion. They will be able to assess the specific situation and provide you with guidance on how to comply with all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the distance requirement, there are also other safety measures that can be taken to protect against electrical hazards in areas where there is water. These include using ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, and installing waterproof enclosures for electrical equipment. Ground fault circuit interrupters are devices that are designed to detect ground faults, which are a type of electrical fault that can occur when electricity flows through an unintended path, such as through a person's body. When a GFCI detects a ground fault, it will quickly shut off the power to the circuit, preventing a potentially fatal electrical shock. Waterproof enclosures are designed to protect electrical equipment from water damage. They are typically used in areas where there is a lot of moisture, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor areas. By installing waterproof enclosures, you can help to prevent water from coming into contact with the electrical components, which can reduce the risk of electrical shock and equipment damage. In summary, the minimum required distance between a circuit breaker and a drinking fountain is 6 feet. This requirement is in place to prevent electrical hazards associated with water and electricity being in close proximity. To ensure electrical safety, always consult with a qualified electrician, regularly inspect your electrical equipment, and never attempt to work on electrical equipment yourself unless you are properly trained and qualified to do so. Additionally, consider using ground fault circuit interrupters and installing waterproof enclosures to further protect against electrical hazards in areas where there is water. Remember that electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By taking the necessary precautions, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and injuries. Always prioritize safety when working with or around electricity, and never hesitate to ask for help if you are unsure about something. Always consult your local electrical codes and regulations, as they may have specific requirements that apply to your area. These codes are designed to ensure the safety of electrical installations and to protect people from electrical hazards. Ignoring these codes can result in fines, penalties, and, more importantly, increase the risk of electrical accidents. Here's a bit more detail on how to approach the 6-foot distance in practice. When planning the location of a drinking fountain and a circuit breaker panel, consider the layout of the space and the potential for water splashing or spills. The 6-foot distance should be measured from the closest point of the drinking fountain to the closest point of the circuit breaker panel. If the drinking fountain is located in an area where there is a high risk of water splashing, such as near a sink or a hose, it may be necessary to increase the distance beyond the minimum 6 feet. In some cases, it may be possible to use a physical barrier, such as a wall or a partition, to provide additional protection against water splashing. However, the barrier must be effective in preventing water from reaching the circuit breaker panel. When installing a circuit breaker panel, make sure that it is properly grounded. Grounding provides a path for electricity to flow safely to the ground in the event of a fault, which can help to prevent electrical shock. The grounding system should be installed in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. In addition to the 6-foot distance requirement, there are also other clearances that must be maintained around circuit breaker panels. These clearances are designed to provide adequate space for electricians to work safely on the panel. The NEC specifies the minimum required clearances for different voltage levels. Make sure that you are aware of these clearances and that you comply with them when installing a circuit breaker panel. If you are making modifications to an existing electrical system, such as adding a new circuit or relocating a circuit breaker panel, it is important to ensure that the modifications comply with all applicable codes and regulations. This may require obtaining permits and inspections from your local building department. Never attempt to make electrical modifications without first obtaining the necessary permits and approvals. Remember that electrical codes and regulations are constantly evolving. It is important to stay up to date on the latest changes so that you can ensure that your electrical installations are safe and compliant. You can subscribe to industry publications, attend seminars and workshops, and consult with qualified electricians to stay informed. Prioritize electrical safety in your home or business. It is not worth taking risks with electricity. By following the guidelines and recommendations outlined in this narration, you can help to prevent electrical accidents and injuries and ensure the safety of yourself and others. Always remember to turn off the power before working on any electrical equipment. This is the most important safety precaution that you can take. Before you begin any electrical work, locate the circuit breaker that controls the circuit you will be working on and turn it off. Then test the circuit with a voltage tester to make sure that the power is off before you start working. Never work on electrical equipment when it is wet. Water is a conductor of electricity, and if you come into contact with water while working on electrical equipment, you could get a severe electrical shock. Make sure that your hands and the equipment are dry before you start working. Use the right tools for the job. Electrical work requires specialized tools that are designed to be safe and effective. Use the correct tools for the task at hand and make sure that they are in good condition. Never use damaged or worn-out tools. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE. When working on electrical equipment, it is important to wear appropriate PPE to protect yourself from electrical hazards. This may include safety glasses, gloves, and insulated shoes. Be aware of your surroundings. When working on electrical equipment, be aware of your surroundings and avoid distractions. Make sure that you have adequate lighting and that there are no tripping hazards in the area. If you are working in a confined space, make sure that there is adequate ventilation. Never work alone. It is always a good idea to have someone else present when you are working on electrical equipment. That way, if something goes wrong, there will be someone there to help you. If you are not comfortable working on electrical equipment, hire a qualified electrician. Electrical work can be dangerous, and if you are not comfortable doing it yourself, it is best to hire a professional. A qualified electrician will have the training and experience necessary to do the job safely and correctly. In conclusion, remember that maintaining a minimum distance of 6 feet between a circuit breaker and a drinking fountain is crucial for electrical safety. Adhering to this requirement, along with other safety measures, significantly reduces the risk of electrical hazards and ensures a safer environment for everyone. Stay informed, stay safe, and always prioritize electrical safety in all your endeavors.